gonna get to know you. We're gonna talk it out. We're gonna get to know you and what you're all about. We're gonna get to know just what makes you feel alive. We're gonna get to know how you build, lead, and thrive. Build, lead, and thrive. Voices of the Androscoggin.
Welcome to Build, Lead, Thrive, Voices of the Androscoggin, a bi-monthly podcast featuring conversations with people shaping our region and the great state of Maine. I'm your host, Susan Rulin, President and CEO of the LA Metro Chamber, and I'm joined by our wonderful producer, Mark Turcott.
Hello,
Mark.
how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
It is, at the time of this recording, it is sunny and 70 degrees outside. I'm excited.
Me too.
Excited for spring.
Me too. Together we sit down with business leaders, creatives, entrepreneurs, community builders to hear the stories behind their work, what inspires them, and what they've learned along the way. Today I'm so excited because we're talking to Linda Ball, President and CEO of Central Maine Power. Linda brings deep experience in the energy sector with a career that spans customer service, smart grid operations, and executive leadership. She stepped into the role last year and is only the second woman to lead the organization in its 125-year history. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much.
Linda, today we'd love to focus not just on your work, but who you are as a person. And I've certainly done my homework and learned a lot about your impressive background. But rather than me telling your backstory, we would much rather hear it from you. So to tee it up, think back to your 12-year-old self. Where are you geographically? And I think that's probably 6th or 7th grade. And what were you thinking? What were your interests and what did you want to be when you grew up? And I bet it probably wasn't head of a utility company.
You would bet correctly. Back with my 12-year-old self, I was growing up in upstate New York.
Okay.
Which is remarkably like Maine in a lot of ways. It's a little bit rural. You can get to big cities quickly, but the one huge distinction being here in Maine is that we get so much more sunshine than we did in upstate New York where I was.
Oh.
And it was a driving factor in choosing to move to Maine.
Really?
Yep, it's true. We looked up the number of sunshine days and hours, and it was significantly more in Maine, and who could turn that down?
Yeah, that's true. You're making the sales pitch there.
But what I wanted to be when I grew up, my 12-year-old self was still the little girl who wanted to be a veterinarian when I grew up. I was convinced I could do it.
Did you have any jobs when you were like high school? Did you scoop ice cream? Were you a lifeguard or?
I delivered newspapers.
Oh, great.
At the crack of dawn, back when there was a morning paper and an evening paper. Turns out I don't love the crack of dawn all that much. Mm-hmm. But my most memorable job was at the Gap.
Oh, really?
I was a salesperson at the Gap. I was selling jeans and sweats, and right from the very beginning, the Gap was very much a customer-first sort of a store.
Yeah.
And I spent probably 6 years working at the Gap, including summer vacations from college even, and going back for Christmas season on break from college.
Really? Interesting. I think that is such an interesting question because it's interesting to me that you did spend some time in customer service later, so you kind of wonder, did those early experiences and work kind of direct that a little bit, maybe?
I think it really sets up the mindset that you're listening to people and hearing what they want and then trying to interpret that and turn it into what you provide for them.
Yeah.
And even at the Gap, even talking with grandparents who were out Christmas shopping for their grandkids, was listening to the stories and then directing them in the right place and understanding that you really do have to hear what people are saying and be kind to people right from the get-go. And I really do think that has become sort of a theme for my way of doing business.
I sold jewelry for service merchandise during Christmas season.
I remember service merchandise. That was great.
You know, it was such a fun job because it was always a happy sale. Like people, you're always, you're not buying sympathy jewelry necessarily. So high school comes and then you're off to college?
I was off to college. I went to a small Jesuit school in upstate New York, up in Syracuse. Very liberal arts and great Jesuit professors. And I will tell you, my favorite class back then was a logic class. You had to take a philosophy class And one of my philosophy classes was logic, and it was, if A, then B, but does that mean that if B, then A? I've never gotten past that class in Father Stephan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's weird memories that bring back the days, right?
Yeah, and what did you study there?
I studied business.
Yeah?
Yep, right from the start it was business and accounting and marketing.
So the shift moved from veterinarian to business. Maybe GAP had something to do with that.
As it turns out, if you aren't really involved with taking care of animals and animal husbandry, veterinarian science is a really challenging one to get into. And business felt like it offered an awful lot of opportunities, and you could go almost anywhere and apply what you learn.
Yeah,
So
true. And then graduate school?
I didn't do graduate school right away. I was a very young mom. So I had 3 kids pretty early, which now they're grown-ups and I've got grandchildren. So it's lovely. But I didn't do graduate school then. I didn't do graduate school until, decades later when I went back and got my master's degree in business.
And you moved to Maine in 2012.
So I had an opportunity to move to Maine, and like I said, I looked up the number of daylight hours, and my youngest son was going off to college, coincidentally, at the same school that I had gone to.
Nice.
And we thought, well, the house is going to be empty. Why not?
Yeah.
And here I am. It was a great move at the time, and I have never looked back.
So now that you've been here, more than 10 years then, of 2012. So what do you like best about living in Maine?
Maine is like a giant small town, isn't it? Tons of space. You can get out and get away from people and be into the wilderness and enjoy just the noise of the birds and the trees. And at the same time, it is this close-knit little family where everybody knows each other and takes care of each other. I love everything about that feeling. And then I'll be honest, the dedication to spending time outdoors in Maine and enjoying the wilderness and the water and the loons calling in the summertime, eagles flying overhead. I don't know how you can beat that.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Would you say you're more of a lake, mountain, or ocean person?
100% lake.
Oh, really?
Every day. I grew up on Lake Erie. My family vacationed in Canada on Lake Erie.
Okay.
And so all my life I've been a lake girl.
Oh, that's so funny. I live on a lake now, and I feel that I am more of a mountain person. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit to talking about CMP. And I've been doing a little reading about CMP, and I was really so interested to learn that it was launched and founded in Oakland, Maine, by an attorney and an engineer who I invested in a hydroelectric generator, and they served 100 customers. And now, 125 years later, CMP is a subsidiary of Avangrid, which is the largest renewable company in the country, and they are part of Iberdrola, which is the largest renewable company in the world. Do I have that right?
You do have that right. It's a fascinating story, isn't it? From this little tiny company right here in Maine, and now this global energy company that's really advancing renewable energy throughout the world, and still very, very focused on doing the right things here in the state of Maine. I think it says something for the entrepreneurship of Mainers.
Yeah.
Taking that little tiny company and then just building it and growing it over the years. I read a story about it recently, and it's really fascinating to hear how it got just a little bit bigger every year and some of the decisions that really played into making it the Central Maine power that it is today.
Yeah. I know that CMP has been doing a lot of work around grid modernization. And for people who don't live in the energy world, what does modernizing the grid actually mean? What kinds of improvements would customers or businesses eventually feel?
So when I think about modernizing the grid, I think about shorter outages, fewer outages, building a smarter, stronger, more resilient grid, which has really become our tagline. And when we say that, we're talking about using stronger poles, and in some cases using steel utility poles instead of wood poles that can better withstand the weather here in Maine. We're talking about using covered tree wire, which allows our wires to withstand the impact of branches and trees so that customers don't experience an outage even when those trees fall down and brush by the wires. And then we talk about things like automation. And automation, if you don't work in the industry, is sort of like, what in the world are you talking about? We had an example here in Lewiston a while back where some people broke into a locked yard and they hijacked a forklift. That forklift drove into electrical lines and caused an outage. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. The value of automation in this case is that we used a smart device from the Energy Control Center in Augusta. We restored power to 7,000 customers in less than 5 minutes before crews were even on site.
Wow.
Then crews get on site and they untangle the forklift and fix the wires and repair the infrastructure. But in the meantime, folks are at home still with power on. For automation, that's what every customer is going to feel, is shorter outages, restoration in under 5 minutes when our operators in Augusta see the outage, reroute power around it, and then we fix the damage while people are back to enjoying the electricity. That, for me, is modernization.
Absolutely. I will say, as a consumer, I go on the app if I'm experiencing an outage, and I think it's so accurate now. Like, it'll tell me when my power will be restored, and I haven't had a situation yet where that hasn't been sooner or on schedule.
I am so happy to hear that. We've worked really hard on exactly that. And when I got here back in 2012, it was really, really hard to give accurate estimates for when restoration would happen, and it was hard for people to understand why it was necessary. If you think back to 1998 when we had the giant ice storm, right, which is sort of the level set of a big storm here in Maine.
Right.
It was 21 days for the longest restoration in that outage. Now that would never be acceptable today with the way we use power, right? We're all so much more dependent. But not only do you need the power on faster, you need to have good expectations for when it's coming on so you can decide, am I going home to wait to cook dinner? Am I going to go out to dinner or pick up pizza on the way because I'm not getting power back on? How long was the power out if I wasn't home?
Right.
And if we don't tell you from CMP, how do you know whether or not the food that's been cooking in the crock pot, how long did it sit there before it started cooking again? Right. So the field folks and everyone in the office work so hard to not only have better restoration time, so you've got really accurate estimates, but then also to find ways to push that information out to customers so you don't even have to work hard to call us and get the information. We're going to send it to you.
Yeah. And
put it right on your mobile phone or in your email box, whatever you prefer. So you've got the information quickly and easily and accurately.
That's so great. I think it's really interesting. I was telling you about an article I read today in the New York Times about power usage, and that our demand for electricity has been increasing. But like in 2000, it started to go down with the adoption of LED lights. And now we're seeing, in Maine especially, I think Maine has one of the highest adoption rates of heat pumps maybe in the country, and you're seeing more interest in solar and electric vehicles and other forms of electrification. So that obviously is going to cause increased demand. So how is CMP planning for that?
That's a great question. We need to plan pretty far in advance for some of this stuff, right?
Right.
If a new housing development is going in and it's going to mean we need a bigger transformer, that could be a 2-year project for us. And some of our biggest transformers and some of our biggest substations are 2 and 3 and 4 year lead times. So we're looking at forecasts that are coming from the New York ISO. We're looking at different trends across the country in terms of heat pump adoption, EV adoption, what's happening across the country, and then trying to interpret where customers are going to be and where we're going to need to increase that capacity. It's really important for us to be able to plan in advance so that we can enable what customers want to do in their homes and their businesses. If a business wants to move to Maine, it's important that we have the capacity to serve that business. So we are working on a longer lead time, including with longer lead time supplies. You know, steel poles can take over a year to procure these days. And like I said, transformers are a couple of years sometimes. So it is very much around system planning for not only capacity, but also the reliability and the resiliency.
For many businesses, reliability and affordability are top of mind. How do you balance infrastructure investment, customer costs, and the need to prepare for the future?
Affordability is really a very important consideration these days. And everything we do, we're trying to balance exactly that. How reliable, how resilient, and how affordable. And right now, what we're trying to do is continue to invest in the grid, continue to modernize some of the substations and some of the poles and some of the wires, and do it with customer affordability in mind by using the roll-off of storm costs from 2023 and 2024 to fund those investments without negatively impacting customer bills. So we have a real opportunity now to continue to do that. You know, when I think about reliability and resiliency, I will say we've got 25,000 miles worth of line in the state of Maine that we manage 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. 25,000 miles is all the way around the earth at the equator, plus 9 miles. I like to get a little...
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like a vision
Me
of exactly
too,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about and how far is 25,000 miles. It's a really long way. But 90% of that wire is bare wire, meaning really susceptible to tree branch contact and tree contact. And we live in the most forested state in the nation with 89% tree cover. So protecting our grid from the impacts of those trees is really important. And that's that covered wire that I was talking about that can withstand the impact of tree contact. Doing that in an affordable way for customers, because I recognize that costs are going up across the board, is challenging. So what we do is look at the different investments that we need to make and try to figure out the timing. When do we expect the customer growth to happen? Do we have 3 or 4 or 5 years to wait? And then offset that against the fact that in the utility industry, costs are going up a bit faster than inflation across the board. So sometimes if we postpone an investment, it just gets more expensive. And trying to find that really fine balance between the reliability we need and the cost effectiveness that we also need.
Yeah. I think probably true for a lot of utilities. I'm sure for CMP, it's an organization where you most often hear from your customers when something's going wrong, like an outage or a storm. So how do you think about building trust with customers in those situations or those moments?
The work that we've done with our digital solutions, with the website, with the IVR, with the mobile app, I think goes a long way towards building trust, because when we tell you the power is coming back on, it actually happens.
Right.
And what that says is the utility knows what they're doing. We know where the outage is. We know what the cause is. We know how long it's going to take to fix it.
Right.
And my hope is that all of that trust extends into the rest of the business to say we're making the best investments that we can for the state of Maine, because across the company, we've got almost 1,300 people. 1,300 people living and working in our own communities. You know, I'm up in Augusta. I know the things that are impacting Augusta. I know what the reliability is in the Augusta area. We've got other people in all the way from Portland to Skowhegan to Bangor and across the state. We're in the same communities, and my hope is as folks get to know individual employees and hear stories about what goes on at work each day, that they learn to trust the overall company too.
Yeah, that's great. What role do you think utilities play in supporting economic development in Maine, especially for communities that are trying to attract and grow businesses?
That's a great question. It's good for all of us if we can grow businesses throughout Maine and maybe grow our 1.4 million people just a little bit more. But you can't really have economic viability without reliable power. And I hear from businesses, and I think about businesses all the time and say, what happens if there's an outage? When I took my job, another leader in the company said some words to me that unfortunately, I can't always get out of my head. But he said, you know, as you're driving down the road at night and you see houses with lights on and you see street lights on and you see businesses and restaurants, that's CMP.
Right.
Our responsibility is to enable all of that every single day, right? 24 hours a day. And that's a heavy responsibility. That is keeping businesses working in Maine. So when I think about outages, I think about restaurants and folks that are eating dinner and the power goes out. And like, what happens now?
Yeah.
Can you pay your bill? Do you pay your bill? Do you come back tomorrow and pay your bill? Because you can't Apple Pay without electricity. We have to keep the lights on for people to enable those businesses to stay in business and to be good for all of us. And the trickle-down effect of CMP is pretty enormous. At the same time, we've got to do it in an affordable way so those businesses can afford to thrive here too.
Yeah.
Right? With your own words, build, lead, thrive. We've got to build the businesses. They've got to be able to thrive economically, and that's the affordability component.
Mark, I see you writing some things down. Do you have a question?
I would ask if you could clear up one misconception about Central Maine Power.
I can try.
What would it be? Just one.
There is a perception that we're not really here in the state of Maine, and a perception that we don't care about our customers. And I think that comes from many, many years ago, and one by one, as we talk with people, they get to know us, and then they get to trust us and understand that CMP really does value every single customer. If folks have questions about CMP, I would love for them to call us. Mm-hmm. Call us and chat with the 100 and some customer service representatives right in Augusta every single day and ask your question and get your answer. They'll be happy to talk with you. If you have community groups that want to know more about CMP, I would encourage you to get in touch with us. We are happy to send representatives to groups to talk. We can talk about storms. We can talk about customer service. We can talk about anything folks are interested in with CMP. Katie Yates is our Director of Community Relations, and her team does a fabulous job of going out and talking about storm resilience and reliability, and the work that we do with EMAs and other emergency partners to restore power after major storms. It's almost always well received once we talk with people, but if you just think about CMP as an anonymous corporation, we can be a little bit scary for people. So what I would really love is for people to understand that we really are the same folks that are sitting on the ball field with you, or hiking in the mountains, or kayaking on the lake, and have a chat with us and let us talk.
Just your comments made me think about workforce development, and that's something that we care deeply about in this region. And I noted that you had made a post about the 2025 apprentice class, and that you remarked all 9 apprentices passed their first written exam. So what does workforce development look like for CMP right now, and how are you thinking about the next generation of line workers and energy professionals?
So this is a really great story. The line workers are doing really well, the apprentices, and this year we're also having our second high school apprenticeship program, and it's expanded. We started small, and this year we're doubling the number of students enrolled for the summer. And what that is an opportunity for high school kids to find out if they want to be a line worker someday. Sort of like being a veterinarian. When you're little, it looks really cool, yes. But then you find out maybe there's something you do or you don't like about it. Same thing with line work. Our goal is to give those kids those choices early in their careers. Do it in high school and find out if that's a skilled trade that you're going to be interested in. And we can give you an avenue if you're interested. And last year there was one kid who tried climbing poles and was like, nope, not for me. But isn't it great to find that out in high school and say, well, let me think about what else I might want to be when I grow up. Sort of similarly, we had our 3rd annual Girl Scouts Unplugged event at CMP last week, which is girls in Girl Scouts coming in, learning about the company and learning about all the very cool careers that you can have in energy. And it's not just line workers, right? We've got engineers, we've got system engineers, we've got control center operators, we've got customer service, we have trainers, we have community relations experts, and it's a great chance to show young people a variety of skilled trades that they could be involved in and just help direct their energy into something that makes them happy.
Oh, so great. My hairdresser's son is 16 and is participating in the program for high school students.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What a great little connection.
I know. I just, so when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually know somebody who's going to do it. And he's at Mount Blue High School. So, and his dad is a lineman, but not for CMP. But so I just thought, wow, that's such a great story. And there are other companies too, I think, that are doing some of the high school workforce development training. And I think that's such a smart strategy for Maine.
We've got to figure out good careers for these young folks to be able to stay right here in Maine and survive and thrive.
Yep.
And if we can help direct them into careers that they're going to like, including skilled trades that you can do without going off to college, how could we possibly lose?
And make a meaningful wage while you're doing it and build a great life. So it almost feels kind of full circle again, providing those kind of opportunities. When you think about community partnerships, what does that look like for CMP to be a good neighbor across Maine?
That goes back, I think, not only to Katie and her community relations group, but it's going out and meeting communities where they are and figuring out how we can tap in and help and be involved. It's volunteering. Our employees, 1,300 strong, volunteered more than 7,000 hours last year in local Maine communities. Oh. And that's sorting food at the Augusta Food Bank. It's helping out and walking dogs at your local, it was Stray Haven in upstate New York. I'm trying to remember what the name of the shelters are here.
Yeah.
It's things like that make a difference in every single community. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit unseen, which is sometimes very much on purpose. People just want to go and do what they do, right?
Right.
That's part of being a good community neighbor, though, and CMP supports all of that volunteering effort for all of our employees.
Would you say that you also participate in energy education programs? I think there might be a lot of businesses and homeowners who maybe would benefit from general knowledge about everything from renewables to how electricity is distributed to ways they could save on their bills, so to speak.
We do what we call tabling events, and that's going out into communities, sometimes at libraries, sometimes at senior centers, and talking about CMP bills, electricity in general, what your different choices are for how you get your supply on your energy bill. And then also doing, like I said, that storm resilience is a big hit for us. And then the other thing we brought back a few years ago was Safety City into grade schools to teach kids how to be safe around electricity wires.
So important.
It's huge, and we need to keep kids safe. But that's also really popular with older adults who maybe don't understand how electricity works, because if you're not in the industry, maybe you don't. So we have Safety City, and then we also have a live line demonstration that's pretty cool. And it shows precisely what happens if a tree comes down and it lands on a wire, what happens.
Yeah.
And they recently changed that last year, and we added a covered wire segment. So you can see what happens on bare wire, and the fuse shorts out and people lose power, versus what happens if the tree comes down and it lands on covered wire. And there's a brilliant line by Eric, who does the live line, and he says, see what happens when the tree falls down on covered wire? Absolutely nothing. And it's a great demonstration to show the value of the investments, but also teach safety around electricity at the same time.
What is the material that covers a wire that prevents that? Do you know?
It is an insulated material, and if I usually have a piece of covered wire in my bag with me, and it's in my truck today.
Oh, okay.
It's like I would say it's like a rubber plastic coating, but I don't know precisely what it's made of.
Well, I would like to know. It's interesting.
I'll bring you a piece next time I'm down in the area.
That would be great. When you meet with customers, business owners, or community leaders, what are you listening for most closely right now?
I'm trying to hear what's coming around the curve and what people want from us. Mm-hmm. What we heard for years was that they wanted estimated times of restoration, and so we did that. And then they said, but I don't want to have to call to ask. And we said, okay, we'll have alerts, and we'll tell you ahead of time. And then often we heard from customers that they weren't entirely sure what their bill was going to be, and they wanted predictability. Mm. So we created usage alerts. And with usage alerts, we can tell you weekly with your smart meter what we anticipate your bill being at the end of the month. And so you get a weekly update, and when the bill comes, you're not so surprised. Mm-hmm. We used to hear from customers who would say, I closed up camp and there's usage there and I don't know why. That can't be right. Mm-hmm. So, now we have Energy Manager. So you can look every single day and validate that if you think your camp is off, there's no power being used at camp. And if there is power being used, you should go to camp and find out what's using the power and make sure your camp is safe. So we're always listening to hear what that next topic is that people are thinking about and what they need.
Mm-hmm. And do you pay attention, and are you following the trends of adoption of heat pumps, or the percentage of people driving EVs, for example? Is that something you're paying attention to?
Absolutely. We need to make sure that we've got the capacity.
Because you have to think out a couple of years to be prepared for what the trends are showing.
We often say if everybody turned on their heat pump at the same time and they plugged in their EV at the same time and they were cooking dinner, the power has to stay on.
Yeah.
We have to keep the lights on at that maximum capacity. Right. So we're always trying to figure out where those trends are, what people are using, and how to help them use it in the most affordable way.
So important. Leading a utility in Maine comes with a lot of visibility and complexity. How do you stay grounded when the work is challenging or you're under public scrutiny? And I would imagine that that's something that you live every day.
There's always a bit of public scrutiny around a public utility, yes. So I'll answer that two ways. At work, how I stay grounded is I talk to customers. I go out and we do different events, and I get to talk to real people and hear what their real concerns are. And that says I can't live in a world of just theoretical. I have to live in a world of people who live and work here in Maine, and what do they need from me. And then at home, I stay grounded by letting my 5-year-old granddaughter boss me around or, going out on the lake, and realizing that we're all part of families and we all have needs outside of work. My job at CMP is to enable all of those needs for everybody in the greater Maine area.
That's a great answer. You've worked in customer service, smart metering, operations, and executive leadership. What has stayed consistent for you across all the roles? And we could probably bring that back to GAP.
We come back to the GAP, but I still think it comes back to serving one customer at a time.
Yeah.
Right? I can talk about the grid, and we can talk about capacity needs, and we can talk about wires. But at the end of the day, there is somebody living at the end of a very long rural road who needs their power to go on when they flip that switch.
Right.
And our job is to make sure it happens 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And it's a daunting responsibility, but then you think about the value that we add to the state of Maine. And we enable all these fabulous things, right? Right down to kids playing softball under the lights or football under the lights. And that's CMP. So it's daunting and rewarding at the exact same time, because I know we're facilitating all of this greatness in the state of Maine.
You know something, Linda, when I moved to industry, I thought, we're going to have power issues here. It's going to go out. It's rural. It's on a lake. So my husband and I bought a generator. We had the trenching done. We had, our everything hooked up. Do you know that we've used that generator maybe 4 times? I think the longest time maybe has been 2 hours.
That's a really good story. I like that. If you told me you used it all the time, I'd feel bad.
No, honestly, it's just one of those things. So
it's a good insurance policy for if something goes wrong. But our goal is for people not to use the generators or not to need them, and to just keep the lights on.
I know. I just keep thinking, wow, we could have saved $15,000. I could have a great trip with that money. Thinking a little bit about your leadership style, because you're leading a company, I would say arguably a male-dominated industry, probably, as we said at the outset of this conversation, the second woman to lead CMB in 125 years. How does that? I know me personally, I always think about whenever we say female presidential candidate, and we don't just say presidential candidate, and I told you when we were speaking earlier that I've always been frustrated by venture capital deal flow disparity for female founders versus male founders. How do you bring in that? How do you reconcile that you're only the second leader, female leader of CMP? How do you reconcile that in your...
It's an interesting question. And I'll do this 2 ways also. Everything has 2 answers, right?
Of
And I
course.
can debate in my own little head which one is more valuable. I don't think of myself as a female leader. I have been really blessed through my career to work with great people where being male or female hasn't made the difference. It's really just about the work that you do and the values you bring to the table. And Iberdrola really works very, very hard at sort of leveling the playing field for everybody and saying it is about the qualities that you bring to the job and not any one characteristic. And yet there is this weight that says you're a female leader, and there are females looking and going, hey, maybe I can do that. Maybe I could run the company. So I think you have to recognize it, and at the same time, you can't let it get in your way and color decision making, right?
And I think historically, CMP, even in World War II and World War I, has always employed a lot of workers, female workers who were doing kind of male-dominated jobs, if I read correctly.
There are some brilliant women doing traditional male jobs, right down to system planning and transmission planning and understanding high voltage lines and what you need to do to get the most out of the line to get from here to there with the least line losses. And it's proof that it isn't a male or female characteristic. It's just your opportunities and what you do with them.
What does leading through change mean to you in practice?
It's important to be open to change. One of the things we've said for years, for me in customer service before I took this role, was that when you decide how to do something, you never do it because that's the way we've always done it. You should look at every decision and say, what's the best decision in the moment in these circumstances, and then take it from there. And the past can educate that, but it cannot be the driving factor. And the more people embrace that mindset and say, maybe there is a better way, maybe there's not. Sometimes we do it the way we always did because that's actually the right answer. But you've got to go through that thought process and make sure you're validating that decision and you're not getting stuck in doing it because we always did.
I think that's so important too. I try to be a listener and then somebody who assesses the situation, and it sounds like you do a lot of that as well. I think you kind of answered this. I'm going to guess that the answer to this question is about being outside, but how do you recharge, no pun intended, when the work is intense?
But 100% going outside.
Yeah.
I used to say I'm going to go outside and throw rocks. If it's a bad day, I just throw rocks because I don't know where they come from, but the rocks multiply when you're not looking. So I throw rocks and I cut firewood. It's a great way to get a little exercise, work out some angst if you need to, and be outside on a beautiful day.
Yeah, I just had my dogs out for a hike. I have 2 golden siblings, and I was out for a hike, and I just think we're so fortunate because we're in Maine, and just the beautiful, especially now before the bugs are out, and it's not too hot, but you can go with a light jacket, or just some of the beautiful hikes we have around here.
It's about perfect right now. Yeah. We did not quite a polar plunge, but we did a dock day plunge yesterday with the grandkids.
Really?
It's a little brisk in the water.
It's a little brisk.
It was a gorgeous day for it in the sunshine.
Did you all get in?
We did.
In and out?
Well, it was $1 if you went in, and it was $2 if you dunked your head. So I'm a $2 girl today. Wow. We were about 50-50 on who went under and who didn't, but the dog did go in.
Okay,
so she's in too.
Yeah. My dogs have been going in for a couple of weeks now, but no, it's going to be a bit before I go. But I'll just say it's a really cold lake.
Our challenge is how many months out of the year can you get in the water? Yeah. So we're shooting for 7 or 8 this year.
Really?
We'll see. We started in April.
Wow.
I think we can do it.
I'm so impressed by that.
There's no time limit, just to be clear. In and out.
Okay, my last question, and this has been such a delightful conversation. What gives you confidence about Maine's energy future?
Oh, the people of Maine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so much drive and so much energy and so many people invested in making this state great. We can't possibly go wrong.
What a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Linda. I have enjoyed this. I hope that you have as well. We look forward to partnering with you and your continued success.
Thank you so much. It is genuinely a pleasure to be here today, and I'm so glad we got to do it on a beautiful day.
We're gonna get to know you. We're gonna talk it out. We're gonna get to know you and what you're all about. We're gonna get to know just what makes you feel alive. We're gonna get to know how you build, lead, and thrive.
Build, Lead, and Thrive. Voices of the Androscoggin.